can Timberwolves go up 3-0 against the Phoenix Suns, and who is going to be those top fantasy producers, and the possibility to you to win 10K. So go ahead and stick around, and we'll let you guys know our top three picks each. Welcome to DFS Insights, where the game behind the game comes to life. I am David Geislinger, and alongside me is David Grant Jr., my cousin and co-strategist. The teams up on the block are the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Phoenix Suns.
With your lineup success as our top priority, this is where David and I will deep dive into our top three players that we like for this matchup. We will break down the strategy behind our picks and share the insights that will enhance each of your lineups. And make sure not to miss out on the finale, where we're going to go ahead and give out two absolutely free lineups that we've hand constructed ourselves.
Yeah, nice. So, yeah, getting into another Game 3 matchup, just coming off that Denver Nuggets win over LA, so they're up 3-0 now. But so can Timberwolves go up 3-0 against the Phoenix Suns, and who is going to be those top fantasy producers, and the possibility to you to win 10K. So go ahead and stick around, and we'll let you guys know our top three picks each. And with that, let's get it going. So yeah, Timberwolves coming in, the underdogs after beating in game one, beating the Suns 120-95, and then game two 105-93. They're actually, I've seen anywhere from 1 point underdogs, so Phoenix being the 1 point favorites, all the way up to about 4.5 favorites for the Suns. This game is in Phoenix, so which it's still at the to go from losing by 25 and 12 to almost 5 point favorites. Hey, Vegas, Vegas odds. Can't justify.
Yep, just like yep. They got the Lakers right tonight. They were favored by
Yeah,
one, right, after losing two
that's
games.
true.
You know,
So before we get into this matchup here, Game 3, let's go ahead and do a quick rehash of Game 2. So looking at here it is, like I mentioned, Minnesota 105, Phoenix 93. The top three fantasy producers for the Suns: Durant, Booker, Nurkic. It doesn't even look like anybody top 33 fantasy points, which is that's pretty rough.
cool.
And then Minnesota top three, you got Gobert, Edwards, and McDaniels, and you had three people over 40 fantasy points there. So looking over at the optimal lineup, I believe it was a 4-1. Yes, Anthony Edwards MVP, Rudy Gobert at your star, Jaden McDaniels at your pro, Nurkic, and Mike Conley coming in. This was, I believe, the 3K to first tournament, so this guy hit solo, which was pretty nice. I believe the difference was the McDaniels Nurkic switch there. So speaking of, basically, that comes down to ownership. So here's my projected ownership for the players on tonight's matchup. This is for Game 3. Just to kind of give where I get these numbers, take the average ownerships from, the previous two games. And then that's, what I came up with. It was actually fairly accurate going into the Lakers-Denver games. I think a few of the percentages were off anywhere about 2 to 3%, which obviously is going to alter game to game. But this is a rough estimate, where you can expect, those players to land, and, use this to, make your lineup, unique, and potentially, be that solo, victor up at 10K. But enough of that. Go ahead and get here into the main stats of tonight's matchup. Like we mentioned, Suns coming in at the favorites. Should be probably potentially another low-scoring game. Only over/under is only 207. Offensive rating for the Suns the last two games hasn't been stellar, only at 98.9. Defensive 117.8, and the pace is actually one of the slowest so far in the playoffs at a 95.25. And then obviously the Timberwolves are the inverse of that, 117.8 offense, 98.9 defensive rating. Not too many noticeable injuries here. Both looks like game time decisions, and these typically aren't like the Lakers where they just put up game time decisions for LeBron and AD. But Grayson Allen, he did tweak his ankle. I believe he did come out of game two. He did do a few workouts. Thursday, he was able to run on the treadmill, I guess, in water. So he says he was actually feeling pretty well. They list him as probable. I'm going under the impression that he will play in this. However, if he does not play, that does change a few things as I, Gordon, Eric Gordon would be a more viable play, I think. But we'll get into that as we talk about our key players. And then Kyle Anderson coming in for the Timberwolves at game time decision. I believe he will play, but he hasn't had too many minutes in the last few games. So, with that, enough from me kind of rambling on here. You have anything, just to cover the general things before we get into, the specific key players here?
Just that I'm a little surprised that the Timberwolves have won three of the last four meetings. I mean,
Consecutive.
I know that the Timberwolves, yeah, and it's man, I just Kevin Durant, Kevin. I'd rather have Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. I mean, than their other big three. But that just shows you having a big three versus having a deep team or a team that's cohesive. All that type of stuff obviously makes a difference. So yeah, let's dive into these key plays here.
Nice. Before we get into our key plays here, make sure you do, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. It does help out the channel quite a bit. So with, the little information drop there, go ahead and give us your first pick.
Yeah, so my first pick here is going to be Mr. Devin Booker. He is at 14K. This may come as, well, I guess it wouldn't really be a surprise. I mean, he is one of the top three expensive people on the slate. And judging by his numbers, so his minutes are great. Those are up. We all know that the Suns get ran into the ground. The coach, typically plays a pretty short rotation. His numbers will be up even higher if they're losing and because of the playoffs. But anyway, I like him. They're in a must-win scenario here. Uh, and to me, I usually would say I would trust Kevin Durant over anybody. But in this circumstance, I actually trust Devin Booker out of any of the other Suns to step up and show up and show out at home. Um, so right now he's averaging 14.25 field goal attempts over the last two regular season games, and then the two playoff games. And so his field goal percentage is 35%. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that. So it's got to start. His shot has to start falling at some point. The other thing is he's taking 6.25 3-point attempts a game, and right now he's only shooting 26% from three. I mean, that's got to change here. So he's past due for a breakout game. I'll have quite a bit of exposure to him. I do see them, you know, I see them getting the victory more tonight than I would have seen like the Lakers beating Denver. You know what I'm saying? So this to me is a much more feasible win where these guys can step up and get it done. And Devin Booker, I'll be playing him at MVP, star, um, and possibly pro, but not as much. It would mainly be MVP and star at that 14K salary. So that's my first pick. What are your thoughts? And who do you got here for your first pick?
Yeah. So I'll just go ahead and get into my first pick because it is also Mr. Devin Booker coming in, at the 14K salary, which is basically the third highest on the slate. I do like him at all the multiplier spots, MVP, Star, Pro, and that's based on how you're kind of doing your lineup. Minutes for the playoffs here, he's averaging about 39.7. His usage has been pretty nice at the 24.6, averaging 30.5 fantasy points, and he is projected in the 40s, 42.1 now, which is you know I think it's definitely reasonable. I do like it. I know he's averaging 30, but he coming into home. You haven't really been doing well. Like he needs to step up. It's going to be, I believe, him and one, two other possible players. But just looking at a fantasy perspective, when your top three fantasy producers on one team can't even break 33 fantasy points, you're having a pretty rough go at it. Um, and
Yeah.
I mean, looking back at his previous matchups, versus really any team, and even Minnesota, going back to the regular season, the last game of the regular season, he did a 40.3. The game before that, April 5th, was 38.1. So, and yeah, he needs to step up. He
Yeah.
needs to step up basically. So I'm going with it. He has clearly the ability to get those 50, 60 point fantasy points. He does have a good matchup. I mean, Minnesota is giving up about 32.8 fantasy points to that opposing position. Obviously, just mentioned all his, 31.1, 29.9, and a 40.3, in the three previous games. Here for Booker, then they gave up 32.9 to Trey Young and 41.9 to Russell, D'Angelo Russell. So Booker, where are you at? Like it's time to
Yeah.
step up. This is a must win for you guys. You can't go down three games against Minnesota. That's too big of a hole.
Yeah.
I know they are kind of led by a young guy, Mr. Edwards, but it you guys need to step it up, and I think you will in tonight's matchup.
Awesome. Awesome. Yep. Same here. So, who you got here for your second pick?
Second pick, and I'm calling him out as well, Mr. Kevin Durant.
Rat.
Hey,
Yep.
you're looking for a championship.
Mm.
It's time to put up. So I do like him coming
Yeah.
into this matchup. MVP star pro, 14.5 salary. He's getting the minutes, 39.9, usage 27.1. Like everything you're looking for in a fantasy DFS
Uh,
perspective. He's averaging 37 fantasy points, and he's projected about 40. So, but I need more out of him. The Suns need more out of him if they're going to get this win.
yeah.
Obviously, he's capable. He is an all-star. I don't think anybody doubts his ability that he can play, but he needs to show up and again, I'll reemphasize the same thing what I said about Devin Booker. It's their team. Obviously those two are the more name recognition players on the team. I know you have Beal and Nurkic and things like that, but it's Durant and Booker's team. It's time. So they're coming into home, and I think they're going to put on a show. So just based on the matchup, like I said, they are giving up about 30 fantasy points. They gave up 32.2 this last game to Durant. Then game one, 41.9. End of regular season, 26.3. Then they gave up 39 to Hashimura, who apparently can't find the bucket. But yeah, sorry, a little sore spot from last matchup, Lakers Denver there. But anyways, yeah, it's time for Durant. So I believe both of them are
uh,
gonna have one of those games.
yeah, for sure. It's going to be, his shot attempts. The last two games have been 15 and 17. I could see him, even hitting above that 20 field goal attempt mark. The little scary thing is that he only took two 3-point attempts last game and two before that. I mean, I know he's not really known for a 3-point shooter, but he kind of is. I mean, he's Kevin Durant. He can shoot from anywhere. I mean, he's one of the best pure shooters I've ever seen, especially at 7 feet tall. So yeah, I'll be looking for him to get those attempts up. Last game he shot 40%, but in game one he did shoot 64%. So that's good. That's a good sign there. Um, as you mentioned, it's a must win, and it's going to be between him. I'll be having a lot of exposure to him as well, in the MVP and the star. And to be honest, with these salaries being as low as they are, we're used to seeing a lot higher. I mean, I could even see him being in the pro spot, to be honest, especially with these lower scoring, the lower scoring fantasy points, like how you just said, the highest was like, low 40s
Yeah,
last
I
game,
mean, you can literally,
for a
with
player.
15K being the top salary, you can fit the top three players, the top three
Yeah.
salaries in the multipliers, and
And
still have, roughly about 8K a player. Yeah, 82
yeah.
5, 82 50 for your last two players, which is crazy. Um, so yeah,
So, yeah, that definitely makes him viable at each multiplier spot, for sure. And
so
yeah,
yeah, with
I
that,
I
make
like
sure you go back to either rewind, scroll back, go down to the description and hit the timestamp for the ownership. Use it to make sure you set that that lineup unique because with the salaries this low, people can make pretty much you can make any combination. So you want to make sure you're going to make that unique one to potentially be that solo hit. So yeah, who do you got? Sorry to interrupt. Who
yeah.
you got as your
So
second?
yeah, so for my second, I'm actually going to go over to the third son, Mr. Bradley Beal. So I'll be playing him at the Star Pro and utility as well. Um, okay, yeah, Star Pro utility. MVP is a stretch. If you're making 20 lineups, maybe in one or two, but uh, from primarily the star and the pro, and then a little bit utility. Everything for him is up, as far as like the last two regular season games and then the two playoff games. His minutes are up. His field goal attempts are up. His three-pointer attempts are up. Um, this is a must-win game. He was the leading scorer the last time that they did have a win. That they did have a win. So the key to him being in the optimal lineup is for him to take the shots, just take a bunch of shots and get steals. He is also a pretty good defender as far as pickpocketing people and doing that, and those can add up to some 3 points a steal. That can pad your stats pretty quickly. Going over some of his attempts here, just as an idea. So last game he had 17 attempts. The first game one he had 10 attempts. That most important game that got them into the sixth seed, he had 21 attempts. That's the game that he had 59 fantasy points. So we do know he recently had 59 fantasy points against these guys. And I looked, everybody played for Minnesota, everybody played for the Suns. So there wasn't like, oh, these guys didn't play, this, that, the other. So he's capable. If he can get hot and get the hot hand, I see between him, Booker, and Durant, they're going to be taking 85% of the shots. Whatever isn't in the paint left for Nurkic or Eric Gordon with a couple threes probably. So yeah, and again with his minutes being up, they're going to be playing 40 minutes, and I can't get away from 12-5, 40 minutes, and knowing he has 60-point fantasy point upside right now. So yeah, that's my second play. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I highly agree. I mean, I wish I didn't agree because it would make my lineups a little bit easier. I kind of want Devin Booker and Kevin Durant to be just those two shiny stars out there. Makes obviously a little bit easier, but Beal has the potential too. So instead of having just Edwards Durant, Booker, kind of alternating up there. You can throw Beal in there also. Check that ownership. See where he can make a bit splash. And like David said, like he just scored 59 fantasy points the end of the season, which is basically April 14th. So against Minnesota. So he did have 24 game 2 and then 34 game 1. So he is getting it. I think it's going to come down to can he get it going, or who's going to get it going. Then obviously that's always the question, but
Yeah.
I'll even reference an article I saw, and I only say this really because as a Kings fan I kind of want to see it happen. As a DFS fan, I'd be kind of upset because it'd be really risky play. But Jamal Crawford basically came out and said that he thinks that the Phoenix Suns need a true point guard. That Isaiah Thomas is the answer. And as a Kings fan, I want to see Isaiah Thomas go out there because the Suns just signed him at the end of the season, and he is a hooper. He can still play. So. That's not a pick, but I just wanted to mention that because as Beal, I think Beal and Booker basically probably share that role as the point. If they can't get going, the potential for Isaiah Thomas, just maybe switch things up, get a few extra minutes, is there. So, but no, Beal, he's a shooter. He just needs to get it going. So.
Nice, yeah, big time. So getting into my last play, I'm gonna go ahead and just hop over to Minnesota now. I'm gonna go ahead and just go with Mr. Anthony Edwards, Mr. Superstar. He's only at 15. He's only at 15K, which is it's just so crazy after just doing this Lakers slate, with Jokic, and he's 17K, and then I have Davis at 16.5, and then what I'm saying. So to go to this where 15K is my highest, this is just such a different build, and a lot of these guys have solid upside. So I know Anthony's minutes are going to be there. I'll be playing him at the MVP, the star, and possibly even sneaking him into the utility. However, that, or not utility, into the pro. Um, I'll mainly be doing MVP and star. He does, the last 2 games, he's averaging 47.4 fantasy points. That seems to be the most out of anybody. As far as the exposure to him, I'll be equal to possibly over the field because these builds do seem pretty easy. So I'm going to try to see ownership wise where I can make some changes so I'm not tying with 1,000 people. But to me, he does have the biggest upside on the T-Wolves right now, while Karl Anthony Towns is still getting healthy. I don't see Anthony Towns, they're slowly ramping him up, and they're already up 2 games to 0. So I could see, Cat getting the same amount of minutes he's getting, or even less if they take control of the game, early. So the key to him being in the optimal lineup, attempt 20 plus shots. He's been attempting. Last game he got 12 shots. He attempted 24 shots in game 1. So just knowing that, he played 36 minutes, had 33 points. He went 14 for 24. I just want to see the attempt. So to know that, he's chucking up 24, another game this season, 19, and then 16. So that's what I like to see. He plays great on the road. He averages 48 fantasy points in the 20 away games this season. So, yeah, that's just, the salary's just too low. So it's too low. His upside's too high. It'll be about getting him in the right spot. So that's my final play. What are your thoughts? And who you got here for your final play?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to say, obviously, this might sound stupid, but obviously it's, with the salaries as low as they are, like, it's all the superstars basically, and
But,
it's just you have to
yeah,
nail the order. And
it's,
I know everyone's like, oh, you have to nail the order every time. Well, I understand that, but like
it's, uh,
it's either going to be a super chalky win, or
yeah,
it's. I think someone's gonna, like I said, maybe switch up, put that Anthony Edwards in the pro, put, Beal up there at
but,
MVP, or it's gonna be some combination that of those superstars.
uh,
So, and I mean, obviously that's how it always is. But like you just mentioned, the Lakers Denver game, we had three players over 15K. Jokic,
yeah, yeah,
Davis, and LeBron were all over 15K.
it's
So
broad.
to have no one over 15K, yeah, it's obviously nice, but it makes it a little bit
Yeah,
interesting
oh,
because
oh,
it's basically just instead of you obviously you're looking up upside, but it's 100% coming down to ownership, uh, the play there.
yeah,
So no, I do like Anthony Edwards. Obviously, what's not to like about him. He's kind of young guy running the team there. So coming off 42 fantasy points and a 53 fantasy point, game two, game one. So obviously the potential there, to have another top scoring game. And like you mentioned, the salary is unbelievable for what he's done the last two games. So definitely going to be having him up in the multipliers. I don't think, like you mentioned, I won't have him in the utility. I mean, there's really no point there.
yeah,
But yeah, throwing him down in the pro might be that that sets you aside because they these top three. If for example, if Edwards, Durant, and Booker were the top three fantasy producers, but they were all split by 1 point, and
point.
if it was Booker, Durant, Edwards, and you had Booker, Durant, Edwards, right? And then typically
Yeah,
people would be like,
yeah,
oh, Edwards should be MVP because his salary's high and has the best potential. But no, I like it.
yeah,
I do like Edwards. He is not my pick for my third. Obviously, I will have him
there-
though. But I wanted to kind of
yeah,
give, if you're going to be using, those top three players, 15K, 14K, you're going to be left with 8,200. So I wanted to come down here to Mr. Nickel and Alexander Walker. So he's at the 8,500, which is unbelievable. For I don't know if Fanduel's just
yeah,
forgot to
yeah.
adjust these salaries.
Right.
It's starting to look like it, but I do like him in both the pro and the utility slot. He's getting about 30 minutes these last two games. His usage 16.7. Would obviously like to see that just slightly higher, but he's averaging 29.4 fantasy points, which is insane for his salary. Which the last two games have been great. Might have been hopping on the train maybe late with him, but I think he has one of the best. Looking at the players in the 8K, 8,500 and below, I believe he has the best chance. He's only projected about 18 fantasy points. I think that's a little low, um, but I think Minnesota's probably going to be trying to play catch up. I'm hoping the Suns don't get too far ahead, and it's just a competitive game. So I don't want the low guys to come in, but.
That's,
Uh, yeah,
yeah,
so with Alexander Walker's, potential there, or you can even, sneak him up into the pro to be different. But, his ability and his salary, I think, is, what really puts him on my radar. So it's hard to miss at 8,500 and you're averaging 29 fantasy points. So,
uh, uh, yeah. I mean, hey, let's be real. If you were to put him into pro, either of the last games, he scored more fantasy points than Devin Booker has the last two. Devin Booker scored 31 in game two and 29 in
yeah.
game one, and in game one he had scored the 37 fantasy
He was in
points.
the optimal
Uh,
in the
so
utility slot in game one.
yeah. Oh, so yeah, there you go. I absolutely love this guy. He's a fantasy point per minute monster. He just gets it done. He's made me a lot of money over the last 2 3 years. Um, yeah, I really like Really like him. I think it's a great play. I think he will probably be pretty chalky. This will be interesting. If he is chalk, or he'll be chalk at utility. So, like you mentioned, probably going to pro would be the move, or just make sure you make a move somewhere else to avoid the chalkness. That's really, I think, if there's a theme for this slate, it's going to be called "Avoid the Chalkness" because uh, it's just so easy to build whatever lineup you want. So yeah, great pick, great pick. I'll be heavily exposed to
Nice,
him
and then
as
like
well.
even if you like I said, throw these three players in, have him, you still have 8K
Yep.
salary, which like you said, the slim pickings
Okay.
down here, but um, you know, well we'll see
A-
based on the news that comes out of Grayson Allen, but
and same with Kyle Anderson. So Kyle Anderson didn't play in game two, and it looks like he was probably injured in game one. I'm assuming because he only played 4 minutes. So that would be something to watch as well, as that's why uh, Alexander Walker got some of the extra minutes. So just something to keep your eye on. I mean, hopefully Walker's done a good enough job and they won both games that the coach would just say, "Hey man, Kyle, you're old. Just take a little break still and let's just keep doing what we're doing because we're winning." So that's what a good coach would do. That's just me.
uh, yeah. So with that, you know, before we get over here to our lineups here, please make sure again you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. It does obviously help out the channel quite a bit. Doing that, we get put out in front of more people, and what we're just trying to help put out some information to give you guys a better chance. Whether you take the advice or not. David and I've been doing pretty well. David just
Well,
placed second place, or I guess 17th, second
hey,
in total fantasy points against the Lakers.
good
Denver
points.
game three. So yeah, just pay attention. Also, if you have any other comments or I who you want to find out, throw it down in the comment section below because we love to answer some questions about people that we didn't cover. Obviously on here due to the time constraints that we try to put on these videos, but yeah, so enough of me yapping. And if you're just joining, welcome to DFS Insights. I know you're here for the lineup, so but if you do, have any questions about why our lineups are how they are, hit that rewind button or go back to the timestamp before listen to our key players. You understand why we do what we do. So with that, enough of me yapping here. Get over here to our lineups. Looking pretty nice. Definitely a little different. A few different players here, but for the most part, few few similar faces. All right,
Uh,
nice. So yeah, yeah.
uh,
Let's do another one here. Yeah, we covering quite a bit of these playoff games, so they're all coming together here.
yeah.
Potentially, the next video will probably be the Denver Lakers game. Game four probably be the last time we cover the Lakers, as they'll probably about to get swept. And then obviously stay tuned because we typically cover the Fanduel single games here, the 10K to first entry, as obviously that's the biggest money maker, and then hopefully can't wait for it to go up to 20K and start getting a
Yeah.
little more interesting here. So yeah, with that, thanks for sticking around, joining. Hope you hit that like and subscribe button. I'll let you, David, send us off here.
Yep. Looking forward to watching some more great NBA playoff basketball. It's, one of my favorite times of the year. And good luck to everyone out there. Again, please like, subscribe. Even if you just fast forwarded, got the free lineups, just a quick like goes a long way for us. It's free, takes you 2 seconds. It's much appreciated. David and I do put a lot of work into this research, to try to help all you guys out and help everyone make this money. So good luck to everyone out there, and we will see you on the next one.